Yeah, well. What's going on, man?
Doing well, man. Can't complain.
Can't complain. Had a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, no
Good,
problems.
good. Well, there was a very eventful weekend in the realm of music industry.
Yes.
Had a lot of stuff going on. I think amongst the biggest was the Lil Nas X situation.
Yeah.
He released the Satan shoes. I'm
Yes.
not sure that's what it's called, but
Amongst other things.
yeah, amongst other things.
hmm
But I think that probably caused the most noise. And I'm interested to get your thoughts. Is that good marketing?
I mean, this marketing. There's a couple ways we can go with this. There's like the concept. Obviously, like anybody who knows anything about us knows we would not endorse Satan shoes or anything surrounding that. So I'll try to see where we can learn from this
Yeah.
and then where we can grow from this. Firstly, the concept of doing something that is irregular or that is jarring emotions is like people do that for marketing tactics, right?
Yeah.
So most marketers have a moral line somewhere in there. People usually try to criticize us for
Okay.
saying our moral line is too hard line or like too strong, right? And then others kind of take it to the other end of the spectrum. Like what Lil Nas X did was not wasn't very new, honestly. It was more absurd, but we still had like, when I was growing up and you were growing up, we still had Marilyn Manson and like people were having the same reaction around that.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like I don't think I've really seen any Marilyn Manson music videos or whatever, but
Yeah.
like I know that it was along those same lines.
Yeah.
Right? So it was stuff that was, people were trying to overtly say something about Satan or just
Yeah.
devil worship and all that stuff. And by the way, like we still get submissions to us. So I know we still have people that watch us that put that type of artwork on their stuff. So
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that to those people, which, we can get to in a second here. But in terms of the marketing, like there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, is this the attention that I want?
Yeah.
Some people, it is like they're like, yeah, I'll do whatever it takes
Okay.
to get $1 or to get attention. And maybe some people have something going on in their head, like maybe there's some mental illness with some people. So that comes into play. Like if I need attention that badly, and I'm willing to do X, Y, Z to get it, like that can be another thing
Okay.
that you get into. But yeah, all in all, man, in terms of marketing, like yes, that can work. I'm not gonna sit here and say that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like it can work. It's
Yeah.
just like where's your line? Where's your moral code?
Yes,
What are you
exactly.
willing to do to get attention?
Yeah. At some point, you have to say, well, you don't have to, but if you do want to live a life of a certain moral standard, if you are a person of faith, at some point you have to say, hey, I'm willing to give my all to get what I feel like I'm supposed to get or be who I'm supposed to be. But if it ever pushes me to pass that line of not being congruent with who I've been called to be or what I believe in, then you just have to hang it up and be okay with that. Not saying you have to quit throwing the towel with your career, but you have to say, you know what, I trust that there's a bigger purpose that I'm supposed to be a part of. I trust that there's a higher power that will get me to where I'm supposed to be at versus just trusting myself and trying to, come up and fulfill all of these different mechanisms to be at this place. Because, you still have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I being true to who I really am? And, if you're not, that's a real tough place to be in. You lose a lot of peace that way. So, that's just my 2 cents on that type of situation. I'm interested in knowing from you if you think Nike was involved with this.
I think we were talking about this, offline a little bit. So, from your understanding, I guess you looked it up more than me, but you were saying that Nike did not
Yes, they
know.
have-
They came out and said that they did not know
Correct.
directly that Lil Nas X was doing this with the shoe. So what I imagine, I'm probably have to look this up, but what I imagine happened is Nike licenses their shoes to different independent stores, independent contractors, and Nike probably has like a document, a contract that you have to sign and say like, obviously Nike is not held liable for, we are
Customization
not responsible for what you're doing.
Yeah.
So maybe that is something that probably happened.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, people are gonna point at Nike,
Yes.
right? Because like you do have to come out and say like, yo, we're not for this. So I guess we'll see what action they take.
Yeah.
I think with something, as strong as saying I'm going to put human blood in shoes.
Yeah.
In case you guys don't know, Lil Nas X says that there's a drop of human blood in all the shoes, and they make the devil's number of pairs of shoes. They said they're going to make 666 pairs of shoes. Only these people can get them. Like all that stuff. In a world that is trying to become more, trying to say that there's no objective truth, there's no, you live your truth and I'll try to live mine, and nobody tries to, not nobody, but less people try and see, well, is there an objective truth? Is there a universal truth? Nike could have said during this, like, oh, that person's living their truth. That would have been a bad move. It would have been really stupid. But like, there has to be a line.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
There has to be a line for the people. So I don't know if Nike, I don't know. They said, reportedly, I guess you're saying they said that they're not involved. I would hope not. But at the end of the day, people are pointing at Nike. Where is the record label? Like, people aren't asking about the record label that is funding these things. At the end of the day, Lil Nas X, he's funded by somebody.
Yeah.
And then for Christians or people of faith, like, first of all, Christians have to remember that Lil Nas X is not the enemy, and like, even the record label who is funding it is not the target.
Yeah.
Like, the actual enemy for Christians would be the devil that is being depicted in these music videos and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what they should be doing, like, I get, like, everybody's accountable for what you do. So yes, people should be saying, like, you are, as a person, are accountable to this.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to recognize, like, he's being influenced some sort of way by some sort of power, and you should be praying for him and trying to lift him up, and yes, hold accountable. But I think he needs a full scope of that.
Yeah.
And these record labels, they need a full scope of that too.
Yeah.
Like, people are used to dehumanizing corporations and forgetting that people work at the corporations.
Yes.
So they'll just say, oh, Amazon did this, or Best Buy did this, or whoever did this, and they forget that groups of people work at the organization.
Yes.
So these are still human beings that work there. These are human beings, all these human beings, if you're a Christian, which obviously I am, like, you believe that every human being was made in the image of God.
Yeah.
Not like, you are not God, don't get that twisted, but you are made in the image of God.
Yes.
So once you recognize that, the Bible talks about you are to love God and then love your neighbor as yourself. So once you understand, like, loving God and how God loves you, then you extend that to everybody else. So
Yes.
what I see with Lil Nas X, and even the label who is funding him, and whoever made these shoes, like, I see somebody who's very lost in their way. They tried to do something that was going to get them attention, and maybe they did have a lot of stuff going on in their head, and like, this is how they thought it was appropriate to put it out. Whatever happened, something went wrong in that thought process. And like, I don't know if it was something with growing up. I don't know if somebody said something to him. I don't know if somebody said something right to him and he just didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what happened. But like we've said before, like, you can easily lose your morals just for more money. Like, if we wanted to just take anybody's music and promote it, we could probably double or triple our revenue in like a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, at the end of the day, you just have to ask, is this attention I'm getting, like, am I going to be happy 10 years down the line? Am I going to be happy with this decision?
Right.
That's one good question to ask. And then, I mean, also, people got to ask themselves, ask yourself some tough questions about existence. Ask yourself some tough questions about God. we're still a marketing company, but obviously we have influence because like I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So like you have to ask yourself these 10-year questions in light of, all right, like when I go, what actually happens?
Yeah.
So like by all means, you guys, I know there's a bunch of different people from a bunch of different walks who watch this stuff. But I guess one recommendation I'd have, like, check out, there's a podcast called, I think it's Defense Rest, The Defense Rest, by Abdu Murray. And I think that'll be just like a helpful starting point for people to not only wrestle with just marketing questions, but like, all right, like, yes, I want to make some money here. I want my music to go out, but like, what am I really doing?
Yeah.
Like, ask yourself some deeper questions. So, on the marketing end, like, yes, these people are responsible. I think a lot of people are just going to attack Lil Nas X and Nike and just not step back and ask a bigger question of like, how can I help these people?
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
what do they really need? What type of love do they really need right now? They don't need a false sense of love that just saying like, oh, nothing you're doing is wrong. No, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
But ask yourself these deeper questions.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's real good, man. Truth. And I guess what led me to ask about Nike is because there was a lot of people that came out and said, you know what, I'm done buying from Nike after this. Like, I'm rid of my closet of any Nike products. And if that was the result, the response to what Lil Nas X did, and Nike had nothing to do with it, technically it seems that they could sue him for brand damage. And now I'm not saying that they're probably bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? They probably don't even have to worry about that. But at the same time, Lil Nas X is a very popular artist who has a huge platform. And so it seemed like this would probably be the circumstance or the recipe for a big corporation such as Nike to say, you know what, this is where we draw the line at, we're suing type of thing. If they don't sue,
there is like the whole cancel culture thing, but then like I don't want this to fall into that whole like, oh, this is cancel culture.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's what I was going to say.
Like, no, there's some moral lines your company should have.
Oh, 1,000%.
There's like cancel culture is you did something that maybe I just disagree with, and like I'm just gonna act like this 5-year-old because I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Like then there's, oh, this person was like, touching children or like doing this like human blood sacrifices, like all that stuff.
Yeah, man.
Like there's a line to it. This is not in the same realm of just cancel culture.
There's depths to this darkness right here.
Yes.
And if, in my opinion, if Nike doesn't come out and make a very firm and hard statement against what happened, or they send the message in another way and say, we're going to sue or take legal action, then for someone like me, an onlooker like myself, I might assume that maybe Nike had something to do with it. Maybe Nike was in on it a little bit. And I'm not trying to get on the cancel Nike bandwagon. I'm not trying to get on the conspiracy bandwagon. But what I am saying is, since we talked a little bit about spiritual matters earlier, in Ephesians 6 in the Bible, it talks about we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but powers of darkness in high places. If it comes out that Nike in some sort of fashion was kind of in on this, I'm just putting an emphasis on the fact that, look, even some of these big corporations are in on some of these crazy antics that these artists kind of pull off sometimes. And again, I'm not saying that, this is factual. I'm just making a point that this could be a scenario. And if it is,
right. Like don't bypass those because like it's very easy to write off stuff as conspiracy theory. But at the end of the day, Jeffrey Epstein was still doing stuff, and there was still a bunch of people who were with him.
Exactly.
So, like, don't just write it off as, oh, everybody just wants to. Like, no, there was still a group of very powerful people doing messed up stuff to children.
1,000%.
So, like, don't just write it off. Like, it's very disturbing stuff, but definitely pay attention to what you're supporting.
Yes.
Like, this is not along the lines of cancel culture. This is more along the lines of wisdom.
Yes, 100%. 100%.